Welcome to Reclamation's History Webinar Series, Reclamation's Global Reach. This is the fourth of a monthly series as we build toward Reclamation's 120th anniversary on June 17th, 2021. This event is being recorded. If you're not interested, please disconnect at this time. If you're having technical difficulties, please disconnect and join again. Additionally, you may have better success connecting to the Teams app on your computer and not in the web browser. If you have a question during today's presentation, please click on the comment bubble in the upper right-hand corner. We will do our best to answer as many questions at the end of the presentation. Today we are joined by Reclamation historian Dr. Andrew Gahan, who assisted in the development of this presentation. I would like to now introduce Program Manager for the Native American and International Affairs Office, Jeff Morris, to share Reclamation's work internationally throughout its history. Jeff?
Thank you, Peter. Thank you guys for joining us today to learn more about Reclamation's global reach. Before I tell you a little bit about our office, I just want to say thank you to Peter for all his work and directing this live event. And I also want to thank Andy Gahan. He did an amazing job putting together this story and this presentation. And so a little bit about our office, as Peter mentioned, the Native American International Affairs Office. It's part of the Commissioner's Office in Washington, D.C. There are 12 of us in the office. We've got roughly 5 of us in Denver. We have 5 in Washington, D.C. and 2 in Boulder City. Out of those 12 staff, we have 5 that support our International Affairs program. And those staff are located in Washington, D.C. and in Denver. And I'll start out with, we've got Angela Medina, who is our Senior International Affairs Specialist, who you will probably see or meet during the Q&A after the presentation. We have Susan Okanya, who is our Budget Analyst. Both Susan and Angela are located in Denver. We also have Kashmir Thomas on detail to the Foreign Travel Assistant position. And then we have our 2 presenters today, Homero Martinez and Kyle Kramer. Both of them are International Affairs Specialists. Homero is located in Washington, D.C. He's been in our office for a little over a year. And we also have Kyle Kramer located in the Denver office. He joined our office about 5 months ago. So again, thank you very much for joining today. And I'll now pass it on to Homero to get the presentation started.
Thank you, Jeff. So I'll kick it off. So for almost 120 years, the Bureau of Reclamation has constructed 180 irrigation projects and other related structures, including well over 300 dams in the American West. While providing tremendous benefit to the United States, Reclamation's activities have garnered worldwide notice and acclaim. Through the course of Reclamation's history, this attention has served the executive and legislative branches of the federal government in its relations with foreign nations. Guided by numerous laws and executive orders, Reclamation's activities outside of the United States have played an important role in achieving the government's foreign policy goals. Bureau resources, both in personnel and material assistance, have helped to improve America's relations with other nations and achieve U.S. geopolitical objectives. Reclamation's International Affairs program has 2 primary activities. Reclamation has hosted and trained foreign engineers and dignitaries on multiple aspects regarding water development, project construction, and design. It also has sent personnel overseas to consult and advise on project planning and construction. The world has flocked to Reclamation in recognition of its expertise in planning, financing, and constructing water projects throughout the West. This has helped bolster the United States' international reputation by showcasing American ingenuity and desire to help nations resolve water management problems. A remnant of the Cold War era, the exportation of reclamation expertise has also resulted in transporting American ideals and culture around the globe. Almost from the very beginning, the construction program of the Reclamation Service attracted foreign attention. In a relatively short period of time, Reclamation had constructed the world's largest concrete dams. Shoshone Dam, now called Buffalo Bill Dam, on Wyoming's Shoshone Project in 1909, and Arrowrock Dam on Idaho's Boise Project in 1916. Reclamation also received acclaim on its design and construction of masonry structures, such as the Theodore Roosevelt Dam on the Salt River Project in Arizona, and Pathfinder Dam on the North Platte Project in Wyoming. Perhaps most importantly was Reclamation's ability to design, construct, and operate vast irrigation projects in diverse settings and difficult environments. Through the work of the Reclamation Service, the United States quickly became a world leader in water development and management. In a short time, Reclamation Service activities had helped to advance the engineering profession through the development of new innovations. The service introduced state-of-the-art engineering processes in irrigation and construction practices. Reclamation engineers led the way in introducing the trial load method in dam construction, practices in diminishing canal seepage, construction techniques and equipment, and first-rate research facilities, all demonstrating to the rest of the world and how the United States government was utilizing resources and talents to make the desert bloom. Construction of large dams and intricate irrigation facilities were not the only activities bringing attention to reclamation. Observers from around the world took notice of Reclamation's organizational structure that brought a measure of efficiency in project development. They recognized the value of implementing policy and procedure to ensure successful operations, and the Reclamation Service provided a useful model to tackle their own water issues. Expansion of irrigated agriculture was the worldwide phenomenon. During the 19th century, nations throughout the world were working to improve irrigation capabilities. Cognizant of that fact, the US Geological Survey deployed personnel abroad to study what other countries were doing and what could be applicable in the United States. At the same time, representatives from other nations traveled to the US to see the irrigation development in America's arid regions. Early on, there had been a worldwide common cause when it came to water.
In the early 20th century, as Reclamation Service activities expanded in the American West, interest in America's irrigation development grew. Requests for technical information came to the Reclamation Service from all over the world, and Reclamation happily responded. Engineers regularly attended national and international meetings and contributed articles to trade journals, discussing progress on reclamation projects. This exchange of knowledge went both ways, allowing Reclamation to learn what was going on overseas and to build relationships in the international irrigation community. The 1902 Reclamation Act, however, limited Reclamation's ability to actively work on or investigate overseas projects. Individuals wishing or requesting to travel abroad had to take a leave of absence. Despite these limitations, Reclamation experience was very much in demand. For example, Reclamation Service Director Franklin Haynes Newell consulted on Panama Canal construction. In 1911, Chief Engineer Arthur Powell Davis went to Russia to inspect irrigation projects. And prior to joining Reclamation in 1924, Dr. Elwood Mead spent 8 years in Australia as chairman of the River and Water Supply Commission from 1907 to 1915. During the 1920s and 1930s, interest in Bureau of Reclamation activities grew. The construction of the Hoover and Grand Coulee dams, for example, demonstrated Reclamation's technical and organizational expertise in the development of large and far-reaching projects. By this time, Reclamation had moved to larger river basin development projects, which included a new list of benefits. Multi-purpose projects that encompassed power production, water for cities and industries, along with irrigation, provided evidence of how water projects could aid regional and national economies. Foreign dignitaries and engineers flocked to reclamation projects to see firsthand the Bureau's policies and procedures. It was not until the United States was fully embedded in World War II that U.S. policymakers perceived the possible benefits to be gained by exporting reclamation expertise. In 1944, the U.S. agreed to provide aid to China in its proposed Three Gorges Dam project on the Yangtze River. Reclamation Chief Design Engineer John L. Jack Savage was sent to consult, and between 1944 and 1947, Chinese engineers worked with Reclamation's design group in Denver. However, the ongoing Chinese Civil War compelled the visiting engineers to return to, and in 1949, the Red Army's victory ended Reclamation's connection to the Three Gorges project. During the war and post-war period, Jack Savage became Reclamation's ambassador. Savage's career began in 1903, working on the Minidoka project in Idaho until 1908. In 1924, he became Reclamation's chief design engineer. The billion-dollar engineer was responsible for the designs of the Hoover, Grand Coulee, and Shasta dams, just to name a few, along with directing the designs of the first 10 Tennessee Valley Authority dams. Over his career, Savage supervised the design of over 60 reclamation projects. His experience was much in demand, and Savage continued advising other nations in their water projects after his retirement from reclamation in 1945.
After the Second World War, the Bureau of Reclamation's presence in the world became more pronounced. Having no authorities to work overseas, Reclamation initially worked under the auspices of the State Department. While abroad, Reclamation personnel became temporary state employees. In 1951, Congress passed the Mutual Security Act, creating the Mutual Security Administration to supervise military assistance and economic programs to American allies. This act brought new opportunities for reclamation on the world stage. In 1952, Reclamation created the Office of Foreign Affairs. Through the office, Reclamation participated in a number of international organizations, such as those listed on the screen. Reclamation's involvement in foreign affairs was the direct result of the Second World War. The war and its aftermath had silenced isolationist sentiments in the US, and America assumed a leadership position internationally. More importantly, the war had left Europe and Asian economies and infrastructure devastated. US policymakers determined that American assistance was needed to rebuild those regions. Reclamation would play an important role in achieving those ends. In the aftermath of the war, Reclamation's domestic program took off. Congress had authorized a rejuvenated and ambitious construction program in the Missouri, Colorado, Columbia, Sacramento, and San Joaquin River basins. Multi-purpose projects were designed to improve M&I water to the West's growing urban centers and increase hydropower throughout the region. All highlighted Reclamation's expertise in multiple water resource development components, proficiencies useful in rebuilding a war-torn world. It is difficult to determine when the Cold War began. Roosevelt's territorial concessions to Stalin at Yalta in 1945, the Soviet establishment of puppet regimes in Eastern Europe, or America's long-nurtured suspicions of communism in general. Nevertheless, tensions between the United States and the USSR arose immediately after the end of World War II. Anxieties were amplified by the Berlin airlift in 1948, the Soviet detonation of an atomic bomb, the fall of China to the Red Army in 1949, and the start of the Korean War in 1950. Communist factions in Western Europe showed signs of gaining strength, and Winston Churchill's dire warning of an Iron Curtain descended across Eastern Europe in 1946. In 1948, Congress passed the European Recovery Program, or Marshall Plan, which authorized $13 billion to boost the economies of Western Europe America's aid to struggling nations began in earnest. In 1949, President Harry Truman took the Marshall Plan a step further by initiating what became known as the Point 4 program. It aimed at improving social, economic, and political conditions in underdeveloped nations. The program opened the door for increased activities overseas for the Bureau of Reclamation. In 1952, Reclamation had worked on planning studies involving 21 countries. These plans incorporated the development of 17 million acres of irrigation and over 4,200 megawatts of installed capacity. Although many saw the Cold War as only a military standoff with catastrophic consequences, it was much more than that. It was a competition between two diametrically opposed political, social, and economic philosophies. The Marshall Plan and Point 4 program sought to improve the economic conditions in developing or emerging nations. The activities of Reclamation's International Affairs program provided a more benign face to that global struggle. Along with improving water infrastructure, Reclamation's work looked to larger goals that would contribute to the stabilization of economies and societies and securing lasting democratic governments. Reclamation's work overseas varied little from its domestic activities. There were two types of missions. Long-term assignments, where personnel could spend a year or more in a foreign location, or shorter stays to consult on particular technical issues. The work covered an array of subjects such as project planning, design and construction, irrigation management, drainage and land classification, and sedimentation. Through all of these activities, engineers abroad worked closely with their colleagues at Reclamation's Engineering Center in Denver.
Reclamation, as an agency, embraced this new and exciting role. Reclamation leadership eagerly touted the Bureau's participation in the United States Cold War policies, especially the Point 4 program. For these Cold Warriors, the Bureau of Reclamation was on the front lines of winning the hearts and minds of people around the world. Congress strengthened Reclamation's authority to work overseas in 1961 when it passed the Foreign Assistance Act. The Foreign Assistance Act allowed Reclamation to enter into agreements on a reimbursable basis with foreign governments. The foreign endeavors of the Bureau of Reclamation encompass the entire globe. Reclamation personnel could be found in the deserts of the Middle East, in Africa, Asia, and Central and South America. For example, Reclamation invested resources and talent over the course of 10 years to aid the Australians in constructing the Snowy River Project, a massive TVA-like project in Eastern Australia. However, not all projects were successful. Civil war in Ethiopia largely negated Reclamation's efforts in the Blue Nile River Basin. In addition, the Pamong project along the Mekong River in Thailand and Laos never progressed past the planning stages because of the ongoing conflict in Vietnam. By the 1970s, interest in large-scale water projects around the world was beginning to wane, similar to what was occurring to Reclamation's domestic programs. Organizations such as USAID and the World Bank that supplied much of the funding for such projects showed less enthusiasm for these types of schemes. Nevertheless, Reclamation's International Affairs program continued to find opportunities. In 1974, Reclamation assisted the government of Saudi Arabia with seawater desalination. In 1979, the Camp David Peace Accords allowed Reclamation to spearhead a 12-year, $140 million effort in Egypt to replace Soviet-built turbines and electrical equipment at the Aswan High Dam. In 1972, there was a definite shift in the Cold War paradigm when President Richard Nixon opened China for the United States. By 1984, China once again came calling, asking for Reclamation's assistance on the Three Gorges Dam project. Reclamation agreed to a limited review of project studies and designs, but in 1993, Reclamation Commissioner Daniel Beard ended Reclamation's connection to the Three Gorges project, citing the severe environmental damage the project would cause. While Reclamation was loosening its ties with China, the Bureau's relationship with Taiwan was emerging. Beginning in 1987, Reclamation entered into a cooperative agreement with the American Institute in Taiwan and the Taipei Economic and Cultural Representative Office on a number of water resources issues. Some of these include turbidity currents, basin and reservoir sediment management, and dam and levee breaching. This relationship and cooperation with Taiwan continues today. In May 1967, President Lyndon Johnson sponsored a Water for Peace conference to call attention to a global water crisis. The Bureau of Reclamation's International Affairs program played a prominent role in the United States effort to support worldwide water management. In 1992, Reclamation began its relationship as technical advisor with the Middle East Desalination Research Center as part of the United States contribution to the Middle East peace process. In 2014, as part of the U.S. Global Water Strategy, Reclamation worked with the State Department and USAID in coordinating efforts to increase access to safe water, promote sanitation and hygiene, improve water resources management, and resolve intra and transboundary water conflicts.
Today, the Bureau of Reclamation's International Affairs program continues its mission that began during the 1950s. Reclamation employees still go overseas to lend their expertise to other nations working on water resource management issues. At the same time, foreign engineers and dignitaries come to the United States for training and consultation at Reclamation's facilities. These global water problem solving activities are carried out in a cooperative spirit. Since 2016, Reclamation has provided training and technical assistance to the government of Brazil in partnership with the U.S. Geological Survey. Assistance includes basin studies and water resources management, dam safety, and water conveyance areas. In 2018, the State Department's Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs provided funding to Reclamation for training and technical assistance to the Iraqi Ministry of Water and Ministry of Agriculture in support of Iraq's water management capabilities. The Department of Interior's Office of Insular Affairs has provided funding to leverage engineering experts from Reclamation for several water utility projects in the freely associated states. The International Affairs Program also received funding from DOI's Office of Insular Affairs to provide assistance to the U.S. territories. Reclamation is aiding the peoples of the Northern Mariana Islands, American Samoa, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands on water management issues. These activities include hydraulic modeling, water treatment, water supply studies, and training. Reclamation has also engaged with water resource entities in Puerto Rico since the 1960s and is currently providing technical assistance in dam safety to the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority. Studies range from initial evaluations, risk analyses, and all levels of design. Work provided by Reclamation under the current agreement is reimbursed by the utility.
Reclamation gains from sharing our knowledge and ideas, and we value unique opportunities to provide guidance for our technical counterparts around the world. Reclamation has offered the Safety Evaluation of Existing Dams International Technical Seminar and Study Tour since 1989, with participation of more than 1,000 technical staff from 74 countries. The International Reservoir Sedimentation and Sustainability Workshop was held as a virtual event this past August. Course presenters were experts from the TSC and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and 52 participants from 20 countries registered for the workshop. In April 2022, the International Affairs Office will host its first International Best Practices in Risk Analysis workshop. The primary goal of this workshop is to provide participants with an overview of reclamation's risk analysis methodology and its proper role within a risk-informed decision-making process. The presenters include members of the Reclamation Risk Cadre and are experienced risk analysis facilitators, peer reviewers, and report authors. The International Affairs Program continues to not only serve the United States foreign policy mission, but also to spotlight the expertise, talents, and resources of the Bureau of Reclamation. For much of the 20th century, Reclamation has led the way. Reclamation has led the way in the development of water resources and has been willing to share that knowledge. Reclamation activities overseas have also represented a more benign aspect of the United States' international role. The Bureau of Reclamation's international affairs work continues to evolve as strains on the world's water supply increase.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Kyle and Omero. Just a reminder, if you have any questions for the International Affairs office today, please click on the question comment bubble in the upper right-hand corner and submit those, and we'll do the best to answer as many as we have at the end. But first, I have a question for you. We'll ask all four today, Jeff, Kyle, Omero, and Angela. What do you find the most rewarding part of your job working in international affairs? Jeff, I'll begin with you.
Okay, thanks, Peter. One thing that I love about this job is, one, we have world-renowned expertise in reclamation. As you just heard, past 100 years, we've done amazing things. We've developed an amazing set of expertise, and providing those to countries around the world to help them out as they develop, protect, and manage their water resources. To maybe be a little more pointed, I got the opportunity to travel to Palau with some engineers from our Technical Service Center back in February of last year, right before COVID hit, to look at their water treatment plants. And the amount of need, especially in the country of Palau and the Pacific Ocean, is tremendous. And I also think about the Marshall Islands as an example. They're providing water, their water utility is providing water 4 hours per day to their citizens, and it's not drinkable. And so bringing in the experts to help try to solve these problems. There are a lot of massive problems out there with water. We're facing a drought here in the West, a mega drought in the West, and other countries are having the same problems. We just found out a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago about Iraq and the water problems that they're having out there. So helping people on the international stage who really could benefit from our expertise is what I love most about this job. And I'll go to Angela now to give her answer.
Thanks, Jeff. What I find rewarding working in the International Affairs office and for the program, it gives me the opportunity to put our technical experts in touch with experts from around the world to help solve water issues. I also find it rewarding and exciting to meet people from all over the world and provide learning opportunities that may not be offered in their country. With that, I will turn it over to Omero.
Thanks, Angela. And I would definitely echo what Jeff and Angela said, and just building relationships and making connections with people across the globe is definitely rewarding. I would also say that working with reclamation technical experts, as someone who doesn't actually have an engineering background, it's incredible to see what a huge wealth of knowledge we have here in reclamation. And just to see how these experts analyze and find solutions to complex water problems, from just the deserts of the Southwest to atolls out in the Pacific. So I'm learning something new every day. And I'll turn it to Kyle.
Thanks, Omero. As Jeff mentioned, I haven't been here that long. I've been here since April, but I did get the opportunity to support the virtual international reservoir sedimentation and sustainability workshop that we hosted in August. And it was great to see the energy and the passion that people bring to this work, and how excited they are to share their work and their expertise, especially when that dialogue is happening between people from all over the world. I think we mentioned people joined from 20 different countries, and to build those collaborative international relationships. And people brought a lot of energy to it, despite joining from different time zones, and some people were joining from places where it was 12 or 11 or 12 at night. So that was really great. And then on a more personal note, and this is kind of alluding to what Omera said, I'm definitely not a technical person either, but from kind of a wannabe nerd perspective, I really love learning about these complex systems and hearing about the problems that reclamation works on. And it's great, especially working through this presentation, to just learn more about how the science and the practice has evolved over the history of reclamation and managing water resources in the West. So it's been a really great experience so far. So thank you. Back to you, Peter, in case there are any other questions.
Thank you, Kyle. I'd like to thank David Gillette for the comment. One of the important foreign visitors at reclamation before World War I was a young Austrian named Karl von Terzaghi. Sorry if I did not pronounce that correctly. He eventually became important in the field of dam engineering. So that's an interesting fact. Thank you. The presentation will be made available after it's over. This is being recorded, and we will put a link to it on the intranet. You can also click on the same link in the calendar appointment, and it'll bring you right back here, and you can see the presentation. Thank you, Rebecca, for the comment that this was a cool presentation, and just being informed about Reclamation's international work. And then question about Jeff for you is, does International Affairs partner with other directorates in terms of workshops? In particular, partner with directorates that hold other workshops like the water management workshop that Policy hosts?
Yeah, great question. So we do partner with other directorates, as was mentioned in some of our seminars. We've got, well, basically, Technical Service Center provides a lot of the expertise for that. Occasionally, we do have some international folks that do attend some of the other workshops that are offered by other directorates. And so, yes, the answer is yes. And Angela, I'll ask you if you have anything to add to that.
Sure. I guess just to echo what you said, Jeff, we do partner with other directorates. We have tried in the past to offer the water management workshop. We prepared the agenda, posted it. We didn't get a lot of interest at that time, but there's always a possibility for the future.
Thank you, Angela and Jeff. Jeff, another question for you is, has Reclamation been involved at all with the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam?
So we have been asked about this actually recently. We have not gotten involved recently, but in the past, I believe that we have, and I'll be honest, I don't know to what extent we've been involved, and maybe I'll defer to Angela if you know more about that. We could definitely research it if not.
I would agree with what you just said, Jeff. I don't know. We aren't doing any work right now, but in the past, I would have to look back at the history documents because I'm not aware of any type of work that we have done or consulting. Not that we didn't, but I'm just not aware at the moment.
Thank you on that. Jeff, a question. Where do you see Reclamation's international activities over the next 5 years?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Tim, for submitting that question. Where do we see Reclamation, our International Affairs program for Reclamation going is, one, just providing, high quality service and products to our existing programs, like we mentioned Taiwan and Brazil and the work we're doing for Insular Affairs. So doing a great job there. And I think also having an eye for expanding the program, so different expertise. Typically, we provide expertise in recent history on dam safety and sedimentation. We want to expand that to other groups. And so like I mentioned my trip to Palau, we brought water treatment folks to look at their water treatment units and looking at water treatment. Not that we haven't done that in the past, but it hasn't been a lot of our focus in the recent past. Expanding into, we mentioned a risk analysis workshops that we're hoping to host next year for the first time. So broadening the expertise that we're bringing to the world stage. I think that's where we're headed. And given that all the problems that we're seeing on the world stage with water and the battles that people are having over water, especially from the deserts in Africa to the deserts in Australia, you got the Middle East where there's a lot of conflict over water. I think there's probably going to be an increase in demand for reclamation and our expertise. And Angela, I'll ask if you have anything to add to that.
I would say no, Jeff. That was well said. I think you covered it.
Thank you. Jeff, could you talk a little bit about the training that an employee would go through before they go overseas to meet with individuals, just so they're culturally competent with the diverse individuals that they support?
Sure. So we do typically provide when travelers request in their travel authorization to go globally, we typically send them information that's from the State Department about risk with traveling to that country, as well as that information does include some culturally relevant information. We also try to get our folks to talk with, to have meetings with our counterparts in those countries, and we find out from them what are the cultural things that we need to know about. I know I keep talking about Palau. We had a call a few months ago where they gave us a presentation, not only about their water in their country, but about cultural practices so that we're aware. So we do try to prepare our travelers on that front. Great question. Thank you, Arlene, for the announce.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff, what considerations are there for requirements of the Never Contract with the Enemy Act? Can you talk about how you make sure you don't go against that?
Well, I'll have to read that act to figure out an answer to it. I'm not familiar with it, so I don't have an answer for that. But Arlene, we can look into that and get back to you. Angela, have you heard or seen anything about that particular act?
I have not. I was just going to mention the same thing, that definitely will research and find out more about it. But yeah, the first time I've actually heard of it.
Thank you. This question is for Dr. Gahan. Are there any updates pending for the Bureau of Reclamation from developing and managing water 1945 to 2000, such as Volume 3?
I wish there was, but right now we have no plans of doing that. I think part of the reason why is that, frankly, it's only 20 years. And for me, for me as a historian, it would be interesting, but it's still kind of, some of the things that we're doing haven't really totally played out. At least in my opinion, to an extent that we can actually comment or provide a really good narrative on it. For me, it's almost kind of like current affairs, but mostly it's because we haven't looked into it and we haven't made any sort of decisions on how would we move ahead with a project of that scope.
Thank you, Dr. Gahan. I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. Our next presentation will be on October 28th, where we'll learn about Hoover Dam. Thank you to our presenters today, Jeff and all your staff. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day. Thank you.